Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2023. I hope you're well, and I apologise for these being late. I've had some life stuff that I've needed to attend to. I'm using the Crow Tarot for you today. Before we go any further, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's link number 1 in the description box. The second link is to the 6-month overviews that I did for each of the signs. Now, obviously, they run from January to June 2023, and we are some way through that period now. The prices have been adjusted accordingly, and we do still have a couple of months left. So if you're interested in those and you haven't had a chance to check them out, do feel free to do so. And the third link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost, and get to hang out with a truly superb group of people. They're really quite wonderful. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, that's the third link. Now, let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Aries. 3 cards for Aries. Ooh, so we have 2. We have the King of Cups and we have the 10 of Pentacles in your recent past. That's really quite nice. Let's flip this around so you can see what I'm looking at. And I have current energy is the High Priestess. And what's coming towards Aries, please? Thank you. Ooh, we have the Knight of Swords and we have the Lover's card. We did actually have the 8 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. I put the cards back in the wrong place. There it is. And the first thing that strikes me about this is it's been a very, very few signs this month who've had major arcana in their main cards. The emphasis seems to have been for most people on, and I would say that it's probably like 4/5 of the signs that I've read for, have been very much on what they do. The minor arcana is like the day-to-day responses that the day-to-day things that we do, right? Sometimes those can be the responses that we have to the major arcana as they appear in the main energies coming towards us. And so, you know, Mercury retrograde possibly being a thing, it's been about rethinking, reassessing. It's been quite internal for most people, but you do have a little bit of major arcana, so there are things going on here with you, but still there's this focus on the internal rather than the external. Like the High Priestess is very much a card of the internal space. It's a card of passivity. It's a card of not much happening externally, but an internal knowing that is growing. It's taking shape. It's taking form. It talks about your intuition. And it also talks about allowing yourself to be a conduit to receive. And I think that this has been a very important thing for Aries, because you found it difficult, frankly, to receive anything at points. I feel like a lot of the readings that we've been doing this year have been focusing on that, right? We've talked a lot about action for action's sake, and the High Priestess would absolutely be a counterbalance to that. But there's correspondingly a kind of externalization of self, right? It's all how you show up, how you fight, how you deal with people, right? The focus hasn't been so much on the internal, and I think that's the thing that's shifted for you this year. And certainly it seems to be taking you to a place where more options are available to you than you thought were possible up until this point. And the 8 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, they're reflecting the amount of work that you have put in to this, right? Arriving at this moment where you are right now. Just shuffled the deck and we've got the 8 of Pentacles showing up at the bottom here. So let's get some clarifiers out on this and we'll put some meat on the bones. The King of Cups. We have the 7 of Pentacles. Magician reversed. Ace of Pentacles reversed. Makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the High Priestess. Lovely. We've got the Sun. And the 8 of Swords. Tell me about the Knight of Swords and the Lovers, please. Got the Knight of Wands. We've got the Devil. And we've got the Five of Wands. I don't feel like that's a bad thing for you at all at the moment, because we've got the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. And I don't think this is a bad thing, because the Five of Wands is Saturn and Leo. And over the last few months, probably since the turn of the year actually, I found it really difficult to read the Five of Wands or the Six of Wands in isolation. They are a pairing, and one is a necessary precondition for the other. Right? Without the prospect of victory, without there being something that is worth striving for, which would be the Six of Wands, there would be no point engaging with the Five of Wands. And similarly, when the Six of Wands comes up, there is some sort of preceding thing that has happened, whether it's been competition or whether it's been strife or conflict or struggle of any sort. There has to be something that you have bested, something that you have conquered in order for that Six of Wands to occur, because otherwise it's just not a thing, you know. And they've been coming up together, at least in my head, for months now. I'm getting ahead of myself anyway, though. So let's start back here. We've got the King of Cups and we've got the Ten of Pentacles, and I really, really love this for you, even despite the cards that have come up underneath it, because the King of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles appears to me to be a place that you have arrived at, and it's been a long, slow haul for you, Aries. Things, I think I described it for you over the course of last year, and certainly towards the end of last one, so sort of the middle of the year onwards, as a long, slow, protracted tower moment. Things began to fall down, and I think for most of you, you hit a point of exhaustion, right? There came a point where you could not fight anymore, and for most of you, that didn't really happen until about January, February time this year. You know, you persevered, you tried, you fought your hardest, but the lesson that was being taught to you was something different. And it's interesting because that situation, I've mirrored that situation in 2018 moving into 2019 personally. And I think it's something it's certainly very dominant within Aries and Leo, right? When things get hard, it's a question of fighting harder. It's about digging in more. It's about trying to lay your will over the top of a situation, right? Really enforce your will on a situation. And there comes a point where it all gets too much, and I guess the closest thing that Aries and Leo ever managed to giving up occurs. You're like, nah, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. And in that moment where we let go, we stop trying to control things, suddenly things start to improve. It's slow, it's gradual, but it's noticeable. All of these new starts that you've been trying to effect, and I would say it's been over the last year, certainly, have come to not very much. They've always been sort of there on the horizon. They've been kind of tantalisingly close, but it's been difficult to make contact with them. For whatever reason, every time you get somewhere close to it, it's been taken away again. And you're like... And you've had a corresponding feeling that... Well, the best way to put it is that like shit has been taken out of your hands, which is the last place that you want it to be. You wanted it to be here. You wanted to be able to control it. You wanted to be able to to manifest the kind of start that you wanted for yourself, because where you were was no good. It's like you've been trying to act from a place of self-preservation, and that might have been in the circumstances that are around you, you know, where you live, what you do for a job, you know, friendship groups, all that sort of stuff. Even relationships would be highly emphasized there at that point. But at every point, I think change has been necessary. release has been necessary. Maybe in some ways submission has been necessary, because the Seven of Pentacles did not represent the environment around you that was no good. It represented an internal environment that was no good. And slowly but surely, I think the message has been now filtering down. I think we fire signs can be a little bit numb sometimes when it comes to the value of knowing when to exercise one's will and when to sit it the fuck down. I can certainly give you a number of examples from my own past where that has been true. So this is not said with any amount of judgment, please do understand that. As that epiphany has dawned within you, as you have allowed yourself to go within, as you have allowed yourself to have a look at what the universe has been showing you for quite a while now was not working for you internally, so everything has begun to change. We've got the King of Cups, Scorpio energy. You might have found that the lunar eclipse in Scorpio that we just had was particularly engaging, I would say. But we did also have a solar eclipse in Aries. Now, the workings of these two together would be very, very profound for you, signalling not only the end of something, a grand release. You know, a lunar eclipse is like as I understand it, it's like a full moon on steroids. To add Scorpio into the mix, we've got things being dredged up emotionally from the depths, and truly where they needed to be dredged up from in order that we release. And what's amazing is there's a corresponding amount of security and stability that has come along with that. Now, you may not have the security and the stability yet in your external world, but there is something growing here internally that is... There's a pigeon making loads of noise outside. That is more valuable, I would say. We've got this Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck here, and whenever the Ace of Wands appears, it does... there's something kind of Aries about it anyway. It doesn't have a strict astrological correspondence. But from this Ace of Wands, we throw ourselves into the Aries cards of 2, 3, 4 of Wands. Right? It's an initiatory point. It's a starting place. And there's a revolution in the way that you are choosing to live. There's a new creativity that is dawning. There's new inspiration. And it's not come from you getting what you wanted. Possibly it's come from you absolutely getting the reverse of what you wanted, right? Everything that you didn't want piled up on a plate. The universe has handed it to you and gone, there you go. That's your sustenance. And you've been like, fuck that. Give me a pie. I don't want this. Give me a pie. The universe said, no, you can't have pie. What you can have is a shit show. Until you realise that it's not about food. I don't know where this is going. It's not about food. It's about something else. You know? Let's have a look at what this King of Cups and Ten of Pentacles is talking about here. Son of Cups. It's been about the emotional release, the emotional opening. You know, it's been about coming from a more heart-centered place. And that might have required you to be incredibly compassionate and incredibly empathetic and incredibly forgiving. Things that don't necessarily form part of the Aries experience in a standard situation. You know, Aries is first. It's out there. It is the transference of energy inside to energy outside. But it's funny, I was just doing the Sagittarius reading before this one. You are the last sign for me to read for. And I drew this correlation between Sagittarius and Aries, which is that these two signs seem to me to have for the longest time mistaken running towards something, right? Goals, achievements, you know, all sorts of things, with running away from stuff. Like, these two things have been conflated, and Aries has not understood, as Sagittarius has not understood, that there has been a lot of emotional trauma that has led to this way of dealing with the world, whether it is, you know, kind of aggressive, whether it is that need to fight all of the time. it's been trying to put space between you and the things that are emotionally painful. And I feel like everything in this last year has been bringing those emotionally painful situations to the surface for you to see for the first time ever. And the idea here is that we are transmuting that pain and the drive that has us running away from things into something much more beautiful, much more open, something that is about embracing what is wonderful rather than trying resolutely to hold on to things the way that they were. And that very much plays out for you specifically in terms of the way that you approach every new situation that you come across, right? If you realize that what you're doing is trying to repeat patterns of old, then suddenly the novelty of what is in front of you is somewhat tarnished, because it's like, well, this isn't a new situation. This is me trying to hold on to things as the way they were. Maybe it's me trying to hold on to my independence, and maybe, like me, your independence has been at points something akin to psychopathic, right? Maybe it's about learning to work together with people. Maybe it's about understanding that there is pain in you. And we've talked about a lot rejection issues, which rejection and abandonment issues, which is something that I had almost across the board. I think all Aries went, don't think so. Shut up. I'm independent as fuck. This is what I do. But we've dug and we've seen now where this has come from. Just like Sagittarius, I feel like Aries either came from a place of incredible neglect or incredible control. Now, your safety is tied up in you controlling your environment. With Sagittarius, it's just kind of being balls to the wall about everything, pushing everything to its extremes. With Aries, it's come out as a kind of control. And it's been about protecting what was damaged within you at an earlier point. Now, everything is shifting and everything is changing, and what is being released now is all of that had your stability and security coming only from your ability to control everything. Like, what's coming through here, Aries? What I was talking to just a few moments ago about you being more empathetic, being more compassionate, being more forgiving. Like, that isn't necessarily with just the people that are around you that you care about. I would say it's kind of less about that and more about the way that you are approaching your relationship with yourself. In this kind of spiritual environment, we can now start to perceive why it was so important that what we thought we wanted, what we thought we were heading for, what we thought we needed to feel powerful, to feel like we had sorted out whatever was wrong in our environment, kept being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Every time you get anywhere near the goalpost and you're getting ready to kick that ball, the goalposts have moved, and it's like, what the fuck? What is this? Your relationship with yourself is the thing that has needed the overhaul. And now it's here. Now you've done that. Look at where we are. We have the High Priestess. It's the energy preceding Aries for me. It's about the passive. It's about the still. It's about the deeply feminine, actually, where Aries is masculine, right? Because it's fire. It's masculine. It's very much focused on doing things. It's very active. The High Priestess is the value of stillness. It's the value of observing. It's the value of allowing things to happen and not feeling like there needs to be a corresponding action to that. And it is about opening up, just as the King of Cups and the Son of Cups says here. It's very much about opening up. It's about allowing yourself to be that conduit between, whatever's going on out there and the experience that you are having here. It is about wisdom. In the Waite Smith, in this one here, which is the deck that a good proportion of most tarot cards that you can buy on the market are based on. The High Priestess is depicted as standing between two pillars, sitting between two pillars, and it's got a B on it and it's got a J on it, and I think that's Boaz and Joachim or something like that, right? And it's the end and the beginning. What the High Priestess represents is a liminal place between the two. And I think where you have been is a liminal place between who you have been and who you are becoming. And you might argue that we're actually probably always in that state, provided that we're learning. You know, there isn't that point where we ever achieve completion. Because things are always ending and things are always beginning. Maybe we're always running away from something. Maybe we're always running towards something, you know. But this High Priestess represents a stillness that has been absent from the Aries experience, because I do feel like you have allowed it to happen. Right? It's been enforced at you, like by the universe over and over again, but now there is a willingness to stop and listen to what the universe is saying. Yeah. We've got the Sun card, which talks about joy and positivity and actually vulnerability. So we've got this naked chap here on the back of the horse. But I do feel like the stasis that you have allowed to occur here is having you think about what the sun would represent to you. And I'm just chortling a little bit because what's just popped into my head is one of my clients just sent me an email ahead of his reading this month, and one of the things that he spoke of in that email was the difference between fun and happiness. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let's see where he's going with this. And he says, it's possible to have fun, not be happy. Sometimes it's possible to center fun right in the middle of your existence and make everything about things being fun, because it masks the fact that you are not happy. Now, I would take that, and for you, I would kind of mold it slightly differently and say that the action, the control, is about masking the fact that you did not feel in control, that you did not feel happy, that you did not feel like you had what you needed from a situation. The willingness to be still is actually allowing you to look at your mind clearly for the first time in a long time, and recognize where it is that your thinking has completely hamstrung you, where it is in fact obvious that this would be the state that you were in at all times because of the way that you felt about, because of the way that you thought, because of the way that you expressed yourself, because of what it was that you thought that you needed versus what the universe has been trying to show you that you don't. And this feels like an absolute fucking revelation for you, Aries. Because without realizing that you are in this situation, you're kind of doomed not to be able to escape it. You know, there's something kind of stricken about the energy of this card, of the Eight of Swords. And it's very much characterized by a sense of I can't, or I have to do this, or I must do this, I should do this. And not much space is given to anything else. I have to have everything the way that it is. I have to have my outcome. When you realize that you're sitting in an Eight of Swords kind of mentality, the very first thing that I think it's important for you to do is relax the tension. And then you start breaking down the component parts of what is making you feel trapped. What is your subconscious telling you that you can't do? What is your subconscious telling you that you must do about a situation? And what would be the opposite of that? So here, she is bound, right? She's got a blindfold over her eyes. She's got all of these swords here. Feet are wet. She can hear the ocean. It all sounds, pretty dramatic. But she's not bound tightly. And that's the very first thing, because if she just does a little wriggle, if she has the presence of mind to do a little wriggle, her hands are free. From there, she can take off the blindfold because she realizes that there is something that is stopping her from being able to see the situation as it actually is. And from that point on, absent blindfold and tied arms and all that kind of thing, right? She gets her movement back. She gets her agency back. She can take in the full scene and see what is threatening and what is not, right? There's a bit of water around here. It's not like the ocean, the tide is coming in or anything like that. She can look around and she can see that there are all these swords here and be like, fucking hell, if I'd walked into one of those, I've got a nasty nick on myself somewhere. But I see them now, so I don't have to do that. I can maneuver around these swords and I can go to this place of safety up here on the hillside. It's in the background, just there. When you allow your mind to tell you that you can't do something, or that you must do something, or you should do something, what it does is it drowns out all of the other possibilities that are available to you. If you can recognize where you are in this mindset, suddenly you can do something about it. It's empowering. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be easy. I mean, she's got quite the fucking walk ahead of her to get up that hillside, but she's out of immediate danger. And suddenly the sun's coming out. Suddenly it feels like there are possibilities, that there's colour in the world again, that there's joy. Tell me about this sun coming. Suddenly there is a route forward. And we have the Temperance card. There is healing that is being offered here, but there is also the possibility of conquering something in a different way to the way that you have thought that things needed to be done. It can be more balanced. And I feel like in the act of healing yourself, there's a complete revolution in Aries energy going on here. I mean, are you going to be stuck forever? No. Are you going to be expected to be static forever? No. But you have now just developed a new tool that is going to allow you to move forwards, right? Allow you to employ discernment, allow you to listen to your intuition rather than your, I don't know, I always used to call it my doom voice. It was very accurate, which was interesting, right? Whenever my doom voice came and whispered something in my ear while I was doing the washing up, I knew there was going to be problems. But it wasn't catastrophizing. And I do feel like this last year has mostly been about catastrophizing. It's mostly been about feeling trapped. It's been mostly, perhaps, about secretly hoping that somebody was going to come and just fucking rescue you, because you haven't been able to see the way out. Now, we know that's not how these things work. Like, people don't come and rescue us. There is no there is no saviour coming. Right? The saviour exists within, and it's incumbent upon us to manage our resources in that way, right? Become what we need to save ourselves. Just to be clear, the nines for me will talk about the internal experience of something. So the Nine of Cups is what, it's not just the internal experience, it's how we manage those particular elements. So the Nine of Cups would be how you manage your emotions in the first instance. The Nine of Swords is how we manage our thoughts and our minds and how they work. The Nine of something else, Pentacles, how we manage our resources, our energetic resources. The Nine of Wands is how we manage our creativity, our passion, our lives generally, right? What we do and what we feel like we should do, what we must do, and how we release, call them parenting words, should, must, ought, all that kind of thing, right? They can be incredibly restrictive mentally. And we start looking around for other ways of doing things. And it's not just, well, I was doing it, I was doing this particular task with a paintbrush and it needed a roller instead, and that would have been more efficient. Talking about, whether the thing needs fucking paint in the first place. Do you have to be at everything at 100 miles an hour with your absolute, concrete slab of will? Or can you start being a little bit more flexible? Can you start being a little bit more still where stillness is required? Can you step back and work out where the action comes from? Where the need to act comes from? And can you discern the difference between situations that require it and the situations that don't? There's growth here. There's huge growth here, Aries. And I do feel like the universe is paying attention now, because you've opened yourself up, you've turned your ear and you've gone, actually, I'm listening now. I'm listening. And that's internal and, external too. So when we move into May, and obviously we're in May now, we've got the Knight of Swords and we've got the Lovers. Now the Knight of Swords is Gemini, as is the Lovers card, so we've got double Gemini energy here. That might be important for some of you. There's a planet in Gemini at the moment. I don't know what it is, can't remember. But either way, what we've got here is manifestation, right? The Lovers card talks about making decisions about things, right? And the way that I would distinguish it from other cards that talk about making a decision is that the Lovers card isn't about choosing between one thing and another. Can be, but generally for me it's not. It's about the act of stepping up and realizing that there are decisions to be made in the first place. Right? So whether it is because you thought that somebody needed to come and save you, that's possible. Whether you thought that there were literally no options in a situation that was in front of you, and now slowly you're starting to recognize that there are. When people say that things like, oh, I'd love to do that but I don't have time, or oh, I'd love to learn that thing but I wouldn't possibly be any good at it, particularly with the don't have time thing. What they're saying is, I have other things that are priorities and I'm not willing to compromise on those to give time to this thing. Maybe it is, that would require me working with other people and I'm not prepared to do that. They're not prepared to do that is the important thing here. Because it would require you compromising on something that you're already doing. Now, if you're in a place of stillness and you're in a place of peace and you're going, actually, right, loads of things are open to me, loads of things are possible to me. In that moment, it feels to me like your free will returns. That's what the Lover's card is here. It's your free will. You get to choose whatever it is that you want. The Knight of Swords is about, essentially it's about the transmission of information. Now that can be internally or externally expressed, so that can be about, information that comes to you, things people tell you. It can be about the things that you tell other people too. But it can be about your thoughts and your thought processes. And I think the fact that we've had one of the preceding cards there is the Eight of Swords, means that this is a breakthrough for you. It means that where you were stuck, there is now movement, and that movement is opening up a whole new vista of possibility to you. That's what this is saying to me here. And when we've got the Knight of Wands underneath it, and we've got the Devil, and we've got the Five of Wands, it feels to me like whatever it is that has been standing in your way for a long time, and Aries, I can say, unreservedly, that it's going to be you. That there's something about the way that you have been approaching things that has been the thing that has stood in your way. I think you see it. Just as this card here talks about feeling stuck and trapped and restricted and all that kind of thing. So the devil does too. But the important thing with the devil is the understanding that the devil has no power of his own. The devil is the great deceiver. He's the master of illusion. What the devil wants you to do is hand your free will over to him and then put yourself in a place where you feel trapped. They've got chains around their necks here. That's not very pleasant. But they're not tight. Just as they're not tight here. This could be something about the way that you think about things in the day-to-day, right? But this could be the wider implications of the way that you have seen what is possible for you in the past and disregarded that sort of things for other people. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to people and I've said, oh God, I'd love to do something like that, and I haven't done it then. And they're, oh, I couldn't. And that's as literally as the thought pattern, as far as the thought pattern goes. And I feel like you're starting to see now, Aries, that this is something that you've done a lot. Not necessarily with exciting, adventurous stuff, right? Yeah, probably you've gone out there, maybe you've travelled the world, maybe you've done all sorts of interesting things. But when it comes down to deeper stuff, maybe you kind of trotted over here and just put that chain around your neck. Gone, that's not for the likes of me. That's really interesting. I'm going to show you something. This is my diary. If this is, my life is in here. If it's not written in here, it doesn't happen. But I wrote this in here yesterday. I heard it. Somebody say it. And I was like, dang. If that isn't one of those really fucking simple and yet really fucking profound sayings, I don't know what is. Like, let it go. I was so fucking snarky about that for such a long time. Let it go. How the fuck are you supposed to let things go? It seemed to me the sort of thing that the Live, Laugh, Love Brigade would say. I just let it go. Positive vibes only. All that sort of thing. And the reality is that I actually just didn't understand it. Like, I had not reached that point where it seemed simplistic, so simplistic to me that it couldn't possibly be true. Because humans are complex and experiences that we have are complex, and they bring up a whole complex array of emotions within us. How could the answer to that be something so fucking easy? Simple. Not easy, but simple. I thought that it betrayed a singular lack of depth in people when they said things like that. And actually, the truth was, perhaps it was my depth that was lacking there. So when I started to understand the true, elegant power of let it go, I suddenly realised how wrong I'd been on all sorts of levels about all sorts of things. And that had the same effect on me when I heard it. Wherever you go, there you are. It feels like the time for excuses. The ways in which you have given away your power, Aries, without even fucking realising it, right? Being so motivated by the preservation of your power, expressed through control, that you've never really given yourself an opportunity to explore beyond that, right? And in that moment, what you've been doing is you've just been handing your free will over to the devil. I need everything to stay the same. The reality is that you don't. The reality is that these two knights are here to say actually movement, flexibility, the ability to be able to pivot, go off in a different direction, and maybe at times come to a complete standstill are the things that are going to push you forwards. I feel like all of these things are hitting you in a really big way this month. Wherever you go, there you are. It feels to me like for the first time, Aries, you're actually seeing yourself. You're aware of how many mental restrictions and, dare I say it, probably more importantly, emotional restrictions you have placed on yourself. Where that need for control, right, that emperor energy of order, your order, has had everything grind to a fucking halt. Well, it's like, well, shit, what do I do now? Well, it's becoming clear. The movement is coming. The recognition of how much sway the devil has had over your thinking is coming up. And the Five of Wands. You know, you could read this as there being a little bit of a tussle with the devil this month, and that's possible too. But I'm actually reading it more in terms of you readying yourself to spring, to move. You know, both of these horses are fucking two hooves on the floor. Like, there's movement. And it's swift. You could end up changing direction pretty fucking quickly this month, Aries. But I think that you should only even consider changing direction. I think you should only consider movement if you have had the necessary precondition first. And that is the silence. That is the stillness. That is the, how do I feel about this in here? Because like I said, there's something, when the Five of Wands comes up, it is only the possibility of the Six that has us engaging here. And I think that maybe it's quite a lot of this month is going to be about redefining what a Six of Wands actually looks like for you. And it may well change the nature of what the Five of Wands, as you experience it, feels like. Like I said, when you've done things one way your entire life, you're now looking at a different way of doing it. Because there's a different kind of success. I think that you're done with allowing the devil to dictate what you can do and what you can't do. I think you're done with those emotions that the devil feeds in you, the ones that leave you feeling like this and this. I don't think it matters what decisions need to be made this month, Aries. I think you'll be fine. I think that you'll do them, provided you can step into that stillness first. It's like there'll be all sorts of things. It'll be different for each of you. But embracing the free will rather than the restriction feels to me like it's tearing everything wide open, so that there are options here that you could not see 2 weeks ago. Has anything changed externally? Not really, no. I feel like the change has all happened in here and here. And the devil might raise his head, might try and lure you back. But he's a clarifying card. It's not a main card. We're shifting where the drive is coming from, we're shifting where the motivation is coming from, and that is incredibly powerful. That is incredibly empowering. This is going to be a big month for you, Aries. Even if not much changes, like I said, outside of you. because there's a refusal to be chained to the toxicity of the past anymore. So no matter how challenging things may feel this month, and I actually think in the grand scheme of things it's not going to feel that challenging. It's more kind of like personally testing, because you're like, okay, well, this is kind of new, I haven't really done this before, but I'm going to try it. It feels worth it to you, even if you are kind of a little bit in the dark about why you're doing something some way, why you are maybe expressing compassion and forgiveness to somebody who, a month ago you would have quite happily seen tarred and feathered. I do feel like the energy is just asking you to roll with it. Slow at first, test it, let it see how it plays out, see how you feel. And then start building it into your life in a more concrete way. Talking about embedding this into your character, Aries, which is cool as fuck. Right, I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to go over to Vimeo now, and we're going to look at May specifically. We're going to work out what it is that you need to know and all that sort of stuff. So if this has resonated with you and you would like to come over to the extended, feel free to follow the first link or the third link. Both will get you to extendeds, but work out which one is right for you, Big month, really big month. Know that I love you all very, very much. I'm really proud of you as well. Nobody's told you today. I'm really proud of you. Take care, and I'll see you soon.